when you're going through, let's say, depression, for instance, or you're going through self-doubt, maybe on your job front or on your personal relationships, people just clam up. They don't want to open up. They don't want to talk. I'm a great believer, Tanvi, in that of people talking. As I said, you talk unedited, you talk raw, but please talk, get it out. Don't tread on people's toes. Certainly, you got to respect their their privacy and all that. That's fine. But if you really want to say something, go ahead and say it.
Yeah, there's this whole quote, meme, whatever doing the rounds, saying, अगर लोग क्या सोचेंगे ये भी आप सोचोगे तो फिर लोग क्या सोचेंगे. Welcome to another episode of Unbox with Tunvey, a show where we try and understand and unravel human behavior through the lens of the life of our guests. Today, I have with me someone who's been one of the first television journalists in India, and he's credited with coverage of incidents like the demolition of the Babri Masjid, the Kashmir militancy, among other things. He's also a celebrated author of best-selling thrillers like The Terrorists, The Avenger, and he's here to have a chat with us. Please help me welcome Mr. Juggi Bhasin. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Tanvi. Real pleasure to be there on your show.
No, it's really nice to have you here. You've had a trajectory that started from television and then writing. How did that happen?
Well, see, television was a job. This is passion. Writing is passion. So it's as simple as this. But see, I was in Doordarshan days. I was. We used to do all kinds of coverages. You know, it was political. It was. There's a lot of stuff which was Kashmir was really bad in those days. So I used to go to Kashmir quite frequently. So a lot of coverages with the army. And these coverages are very interesting because obviously you were covering the events, but there was always a story beyond a story. There was a story which was covering for news, but then you used to come across these human stories, so many interesting stories. And maybe at that time, my mind was already tucking in all that information, all the experiences. And I said, there's some point in my life where I need to put pen to paper and I have to write. That idea was taking shape even then. But then I waited for a long, long time, and I sometimes, even today, I curse myself. I should have started writing even earlier.
So, in fact, I spent a couple of years in Kashmir as well when I was very young because my father was in the army and he was posted in Baramulla. But we left before the insurgency started. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of making friends there and some of the stories of people in the lives. It all impacts you. You can't unhear something that you've heard or learned.
Yeah, I mean, just to share a very interesting experience, rather, an experience which has never really left me. So right now, of course, we are seeing on our television screen all this Arab-Israeli war and everything and all the human suffering. So I was there, and you rightly, when you introduced me, I was there when the Babri Masjid fell. So I was on that day with my camera crew and everything, and a lot of experiences on that day. Obviously, it was a kind of an experience where it was the destiny of the country was actually changed on that day. But I won't talk so much about that. But there's this experience when in those days, and I had to come back to Delhi. The feed had already gone. In those days, we used to have something called a microwave link.
Yeah.
And the feed went through that.
True.
So it was already the footage was there with the DD authorities at Mandi House. So that was all done. So I had to just take the train back because there was some kind of a debriefing which had to happen next morning. So the train was from Lucknow to back to Delhi. And it was like something out of a surreal film. The entire coach, where all the coaches, in fact, there was pin drop silence.
Nobody was talking.
Talking, and right at the last, I think, seat or something, there was this Muslim gentleman, literally covering, almost trying not to attract attention to himself. And me being me, that news person in me at that time was, and I just went up to him and I said, "Ab theek hai? Matlab, everything is okay." So he just he didn't say too much. He just put up his hands and, with this crinkly eyes, there was a little bit of shed of a tear. He says, "किसी तरह बस दिल्ली पहुंच जाए," and
Just the fear.
just the fear because the riots had broken out,
Yeah.
and the killings had started. So that was enough. That was like a snapshot which stayed with me. And maybe it's these kind of experiences which give you that insight that I have to write about human experiences.
Mm.
So I guess, when somebody says that, how did you become a writer? There is no specific timetable where you start at
Yeah.
point A, oh, I'm going to become a writer
True.
today. It's that yearning and it's that, sum total of
A lot of the
a
experiences
lot of
you've
the
had.
experiences, and they leave something inside you, stir, and you just have that passion that, no, I really have to get on my laptop and start
Mm.
writing.
No, I do agree with what you're saying because we are more than the sum of our parts, and a lot of the experiences we have boil up. There was some research recently that said 3 out of 4 people feel they should write a book.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's probably true because it doesn't matter in by today's standards what level of success you've achieved. I mean, like, you may not be a Shah Rukh Khan or a Deepika Padukone or a Priyanka Chopra or a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli,
Yeah.
but you've lived life.
Mm.
And I think every life lived definitely leaves you with experiences, with lessons, with learnings. And I think you don't have to be and maybe this is a lesson I'm still learning. It's like you don't have to feel like an author to
Correct.
start writing.
Tanvi, you said it absolutely bang on. And I'll tell you why. Because today, what has happened is it's not only writing, in fact, your field, the audiovisual field, I mean, for want of a better word, it is no longer an elitist pursuit, it is a democratic pursuit.
Yeah, yeah. What we were talking about earlier as well,
We
that
were talking about that.
yeah, earlier only someone with a beta camera or
That's right.
or somebody who was in
Yeah.
television could
Television,
be
trained properly or
properly
whatever.
could be on camera.
Absolutely.
Today, anyone with a
Anyone can.
smartphone can
Sure.
be on camera, on audio,
And
can
as far
start a
as writing is
podcast.
concerned, I think every person has a book in them. Every person. It's how many have the courage, really, to, as I said, put pen to paper. That's what really matters. And so we are living actually in great times and fantastic times in terms of output, in terms of energy, in terms of even vision, I would say, People have all kinds of different ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there are certain things which people will read, which will they will watch, which they will digest. There will be others which will be rejected. Rejection is very high. That's absolutely democratic.
Mm.
But the fact is, today it is no longer elitist, and that for me is remarkable.
True. Yeah, you don't necessarily need a publisher. You can self-publish books today.
Self-published. Yeah.
I don't think it existed
Yeah.
years back. It was very difficult to self-publish. It was very expensive to self-publish.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you can start writing a blog,
Sure.
which
Sure.
is free of cost.
Sure.
So I do agree with when you say that it is becoming a democratic process.
So let me share something very
Yeah.
again interesting with you. But I'll come up with all these kind of
Yeah, yeah,
small
please.
stories which are
That's the whole
interesting.
point of this conversation.
Um, so yeah, I'm at that stage in my life where it's like been there, done it all, and life is now about great experiences. We're well settled. Our son is in the US and everything. All that is fine. So what we do is we sometimes we organize these, and for want of a better word, we call those betaks in the house.
So nice. Hmm.
And the betak really is we friends and sometimes even friends and friends call over. If you write poetry, if you are a shair, or if you sing, certainly. And we've had a number of these betaks, and Tanvi, I can't even tell you the kind of talent which comes up,
Wow.
which is like amazing. So we have this friend, for instance, a very senior person in Vodafone, but he sings. I think he's the avatar of Kishore Kumar.
Wow.
He sings so well, and there are lots of people like that. So singing is a passion, with so many Indians,
True.
for instance. And all we do, my wife and I, we just provide a platform in our place. So guys come over wine and snacks and drinks and everything. And we'll have betak, we'll have
Poetry and
poetry
music.
and music. And even sometimes we'll break out in, Even there's a lady who does Kathak very well, and she
Wow.
breaks out in a dance, to the accompaniment of the music. So we're living in very interesting times. We
I think while social media is exploding, currently maybe it's exploding in one direction, which is got more to do with glamour or just shock and awe, you
That's
know.
right. Yeah.
But I do feel that other areas are beginning to develop, and kids today have so many more choices and
Sure.
options.
Sure.
But I want to speak more about, when you said, I think everybody has a book in them, but it's about the courage.
Mhm.
What really does it take to start writing? Because some people, I think, are born authors. Maybe they're born writers. They've been
Sure.
writing stories or short stories their whole lives.
Yeah.
And in your case, it was almost the experiences or the sum of your experiences that
Yeah.
made you want to become a writer.
See, one thing I can tell people is that as far as writing is concerned, I'm not certainly talking of other art forms. Every art form is a certain other discipline. But you actually should be a little undisciplined when you're writing. I would strongly recommend that. What do I mean by that? Don't, for God's sake, a lot of people do, oh, I need to first find the publisher, then I need to negotiate, then I have to do, you go through this entire list of things. By the time you actually come to writing, people are exhausted. And then they don't produce anything which is worth even, going over a page. I would say forget about all that. Forget about the semantics of it or the economics of it. All that comes later. You literally just put down that passion of yours on paper or on your laptop. That is, for me, is very critical. Even the arrangement in terms of plot, characters, chapters, all that stuff, that also comes later. Just free verse write. That's what I recommend to people.
Yeah, some authors call it the vomit draft.
Yeah, you can call it the vomit trough. You can call it you can call it, because see, your intense ideas actually are coming at that time. Later, the brain starts working in a particular way where you start or arranging and rearranging all that stuff. But that again takes a little bit of the passion away.
Yeah.
So there is something called raw footage.
Yeah.
You know that. You're a
Yeah.
television person through and
Correct.
through. So the raw footage sometimes has instances which are absolutely brilliant.
And
How
you
you put
start
them later is a different, fine. That's a certain discipline. But get that raw energy out.
first.
Don't keep it, bottled inside.
I think creating structure too soon stifles your creativity and
Yeah.
maybe even something that's coming to you from a higher space. There's so many authors like Neil Donald Walsh and many others have said that it just came to me. Even Viktor Frankl, in one of his writings, says that, he wrote about his own experiences in Man's Search for Meaning, but he said it came to me. He just sat down one night and, pretty much
Yeah.
wrote the entire thing.
Yeah. See, and the thing is, the advantage of what we're talking about in terms of the inspiration is that when you are in that, you are almost like a man or a woman possessed.
Yeah, you
And
need to write.
you need to be. And the possession comes in the form of, see, when I'm in the grip of when I'm writing my novels, I actually dream of sequences in the night.
Yeah.
So no, it all comes to me at 3 o'clock in the night when I'm sleeping, and it's like running like a film in my mind. When I
So in
wake
the
up in the
morning, you just
morning,
have to quickly get it down before you
I
forget.
just yeah, I. But then, which literally means you have to be in that intense zone.
Then it keeps coming to
It
you.
keep coming. The moment you start sanitizing that zone, then it goes away. So that's my mantra. People will have different
But
mantras.
I think I've experienced that in some form or manner. What you're just saying, it kind of, I can now relate to. I remember one clear incident. My father passed away in 2018. And in 2019, we were doing, like a talk in his memory. We're giving away some scholarships. And I was supposed to give kind of like a eulogy. And my mom kept saying, "Have you written something? Have you written something?" I said, "Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it." And I think every night I would go to sleep saying, what should I say? Because there's so many experiences I've had with that, and there's so much I wanted to say, but I really didn't know how to structure it into something I could share. And I think it was a night before or 2 nights before I was supposed to give this, because I was constantly thinking. And every night I would go to sleep saying, I have to figure something out. I saw my dad in my
Sure.
dream, and he said, just talk about the lessons I've taught you. And I woke up with this one line, lessons from my father. Nothing else, just that one direction.
Right.
And I ended up writing it in half an hour, and I think I've shared it on YouTube or something somewhere. But the point is that when you go to sleep with a problem,
Yes.
your
Yes.
subconscious works on
Works.
it and gives
Solves
you
it.
solutions the next day, and you'll find it across many areas of our lives. You'll find that, you go to sleep with the problem and wake up with a solution.
And it's not only creative.
Yeah.
It's to do with our lives. It's to do, let's say, the issues, for instance, we have with our partners. And the best thing, as I say, and that's true. Sometimes you sleep over a problem, and when
Yeah.
you wake up, it's kind of gone away, or at least you have some clarity as to how to deal with it.
True.
So yeah, I completely believe in, you know, sometimes you can term this as an organic process also. Let things grow organically. uh, Try and not s- bring an in or organic kind of a template in the entire proceedings, because if you let
Don't try to retrofit too much.
retrofit and you try and what happens is, because we are all living in these very interesting times where so much keeps happening, but I, despite all the chaos, despite all the noise, despite the frenetic energy around us, keep it basically simple. Keep the basics simple. Always keep that child inside you, which is like yearning for new things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me, "Oh, Juggi, now you're like you. I'm 62." So I said, "Listen, guys, I still feel like somebody who's writing his first thing or who's going to meet his first girlfriend for the first time. I still have that same kind of passion. It hasn't gone away. The day it goes away, then I know I've become really old. But yeah, for me, that is important. So keep that raw energy, that raw enthusiasm inside you. That's important, I think.
I think that probably also what brings out the best in you. And most of the successful people in the world will turn around and say, remain curious, remain students for life. I think they've put it in different words, but literally everyone says the same thing, that don't become,
Yeah.
I know this, like, don't become jaded and think that you've got it
That's
all
it.
or figured it out, or you have to figure it all out. I think it's in the journey,
And you said something very interesting, Tanvi, because when I was talking to you before your show, we'll not name the person, but you visited this place, very well known person. But again, you found it to be too sanitized, too organized,
Yeah.
and too chic. That's the
Yeah.
word. Yeah, and that sometimes takes the edge off. See, I like things which are a little bit on the edge, which means they are not fully packaged. They are a little. It's like a half cooked meal.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, sure. We sometimes need that.
True.
More than this organized thing. Which so yeah.
Yeah, I think planning is important. I think being organized is important. But at what stage of the journey are you planning and organizing
That's
it? I
right.
think that's pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
How easy or difficult was it to make the transition from television to writing? Because writing thrillers, it's not even like you're writing a non-fiction book which is based on your experiences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you will understand this more than anyone else. See, in journalism, we do something at the end of the day, whether you're writing for a newspaper or you're doing a television broadcast or you're doing a news capsule, we are still writing what is called copy.
Yeah, correct.
See, at the end of the day, it's a 1 minute copy or it's a page
You have
article or
to. I've
whatever.
written my scripts my whole life.
It's a copy. But the moment you transition to being a writer, you cannot use copy.
So it was a lot of unlearning, you're saying.
This total unlearning. I actually go strongly and I use a word called you just have to disabuse yourself. See, when you have to write, then you have to write in the meter, the syntax, everything is different from journalistic writing. And that's why you'll find, not going to take names, but a lot of these famous senior quote within journalists, oh, I have written 8 books, 10 books, and all that. And then you flip through the books, you'll find it's the same copy which has been put in the books. It doesn't make great reading. So you really need to unlearn yourself before you get on into creative writing. So that's the biggest transition process which you go through from journalism to full-fledged creative writing.
I think I can get a sense of what you're saying because I've done theater and acting and I've done anchoring. When you are acting, you need to be able to let go of who you are and become the character that you're playing. But when you're anchoring, you have to be very sure of who you are and you come across as the person you are. Your personality should reflect.
Sure.
You know, you take a set of lines and you make them your own. You'll change a few because you say, listen, this doesn't sound like me.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound comfortable. So you portray yourself on camera. So it actually is two different skill sets. One is knowing very clearly who you are,
Right.
and the other is not being too stuck in your own head about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
It's
almost
kind
like
of the same parallel you're drawing.
you're almost like a schizophrenic person. Multiple personalities. And why not? You need to switch over. See, you can't apply the same thing for different art forms. Like you, I also do theater, for instance. I've done a lot of theater with Faisal Al-Qazi. And when you are on stage, however confident you might be, let's say in a one-to-one talk or stage, is the ultimate experience in
Yeah.
terms of the confidence, in terms of how you project yourself. But that is a different discipline.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little different from your discipline when I'm sitting in my room alone in front of my laptop and I'm writing my stuff.
But writing is a very lonely
Very lonely.
process, right?
That's right.
How do you stay disciplined in that process? Because I know, some writers say I write 10,000 words every day, even if it's rubbish. But that's their discipline. For some people, they will not write anything till they feel it. So what's kind of your process?
My process is I turn it completely on its head. I'm absolutely undisciplined when I write, and I love it. See, sometimes I'm actually I sleep late. I just have not been able to get to the healthy habit of sleeping early. So sometimes I write. I literally start at, let's say, at 12:30, and I go up till 4 o'clock in the morning. I just do that. It's like this
What works for
intensity
you?
which works, and it's not that it's a time schedule or it's a night thing or a morning thing. It's just the way it is. And number two, too much of this thing is made out that you got a nice view of a boathouse and, lovely trees and the valley and everything. You don't need all that. You just see, you need to be in your space
Yeah.
where you're really comfortable. This is my space, my den. So that way, like we have a 3-story house. So the good thing we have done, and our marriage survives on that because my wife has a separate study, I have a totally separate study. Yeah. So that
Yes,
works.
distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Certainly, some bit of
And,
distance.
and personal space definitely works.
Certainly. Yeah.
No. One other thing I want to ask you, you write thrillers. And a lot of the thrillers have been around very serious social commentary as well.
Yeah.
How do you balance the social commentary and the message sometimes the books are carrying
Sure.
with the thriller aspect of it, with the entertainment aspect of it?
See, I actually now I don't even categorize my new books as thrillers. I would call them actually as novels, really, because the thriller element was certainly there in the earlier books. For me, the personalized, the psychological element is very, very important. See, I for a number of years, not as a full-time person, but I was associated with this organization called Sanjeevni in Delhi. Sanjeevni is a mental health organization.
Yes.
And what really a counselor really does at the end of the day, you more than actually, you don't certainly help people, you end up helping yourself. You
I
develop
agree.
as a person.
I agree. I
You-
do coaching, but every client I coach, I also grow myself.
Yeah. So the kind of human insights, the kind of psychological insights, the kind of behavioral insights which you get when one-to-one, even right now, for instance, we are talking one to one, and in counseling becomes even more intense, because 90% of the job is to listen to
Correct.
the person who's really
True.
going through pain and suffering. I think that shaped me. That made my, that all the rough edges which I had, they kind of smoothened them to understand human behavior, which I started then putting in my
Incorporating
books.
into the books and stories.
So the thriller genre actually can become a very interesting genre where it actually is an exploration of the human soul.
I think every movie, every book ever written will have some element of psychology in it. Otherwise, people don't relate to it.
They don't
It
relate
doesn't
to it.
feel real. You
Yeah.
know, you're touching some part of the human psyche when you're writing or creating any kind of art form. There's something that you're touching upon.
Absolutely, because like my new book, the latest book is called Those Who Wait. There are two or three central characters, but one of the characters is that of the Indian Prime Minister. And uh, this is a Prime Minister who's very successful, but he comes at a stage in his life where he is completely bachelor person and he is completely isolated in his own mind. He needs to communicate with somebody with whom he can, there's a certain mental wavelength which he doesn't find anywhere. You see, he has all the people around him, everything.
True.
So it's an exploration of the mind battles which you go through, of the rich and the powerful, or the powerful people. That by itself is a very interesting, a
Yeah,
deep
true.
dive.
Yeah, because you could be surrounded by yes men your whole life and you don't even have a reality check, and your intelligence is telling you that this is not all there is, but the place you're at may.
It's like somebody coming to you, Tanvi, and says, Tanvi, you are the most happening podcast in the world. He says, yeah, thank you so much.
But I
But let me
don't.
check again.
Yeah, we're,
Uh,
we're a work in progress.
we
Keep
work in
going. Yeah.
progress. I will get there, but let me check. So yeah, so it's
Correct.
something very similar,
True, true.
and see also the other thing is writers, you are progressing all the time. You are progressing in your work, especially if you are serious about writing, and you are progressing in terms of not only your thoughts, your writing style, but what is it that you really want to say at the end of the day? You know.
In all your experiences with people, across state lines, across issues, uh, what's the one thing that has stood out in your head in terms of, let's say a fear people carry or a challenge that they face, something that you've learned?
I think the fear of rejection is a very, very big fear in people. A lot of things which we do or we don't do are actually kind of controlled by this fear of rejection. It might be the most sophisticated person, it might be the most uncouth person. The uncouth person actually is being uncouth partly because he's fearful of rejection. But even the sophisticated person, you are a little bit of tenterhooks that I hope my image, I hope my projection is good. It is like meaningful. It is creating an impact. So it's both sets of people, and for me, this is fascinating. When I find rarely people who are completely not on their guard, who are not. We tend to build walls around ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, and how quickly you break the wall and how quickly you start corresponding to human beings. That's a
Yeah,
rare
like an
quality.
and yeah, like to have an honest conversation without um too many walls. But fear of rejection, I think, is a big one. It stops so many people from even trying to do something. Whether they will get rejected or not is
Yeah.
a later thing. But I think most of us,
And you're a public speaker, no? You're a trainer, and you know that public speaking is like it's crazy.
yeah,
People actually get medical conditions, before they can go on,
true,
stand
true,
in front of people
true,
and talk. It's
true.
it's a
But the fear is not speaking in public. The fear is of being judged
judge
by the public.
judged.
It's because when you're in a small circle, you'll have a conversation.
Sure,
But
sure.
and some people have a medical condition, and that's
Yeah,
anxiety or very debilitating anxiety. I'm not referring
that's right.
to them. They need help and they need medical intervention. But
Yeah,
for most of us, it is just that fear of being judged. It's our little ego, no?
Yeah, and
I'd rather be the cool person standing at the
absolutely,
back, not
absolutely.
contributing,
Yeah,
or be the,
that's right.
God forbid they think me a fool.
Yeah.
But I think we self reject. I always say that. I said before a person can reject you, you reject yourself. You don't call someone you could to ask for a favor, or project, pitch a job or a project. You don't email people, you don't do things, because before the other person has rejected you, we've only rejected ourselves.
No, no, and the problem becomes really terrible, especially when you're going through, let's say, depression, for instance, or you're going through self-doubt, maybe on your job front or on your personal relationships. People just clam up.
Yeah.
They don't want to open up. They don't want to talk. I'm a great believer, Tanvi, in that of people talking. As I said, you talk unedited, you talk raw, but please talk, get it out. Don't tread on people's toes. Certainly, you got to respect their their privacy and all that. That's fine. But if you really want to say something, go ahead and say it.
Yeah,
It
what's the
doesn't.
worst that'll happen?
Yeah, let them laugh. How does it
Yeah,
matter?
true.
We used to tell this thing to our son, in some context when he was a kid, and in some context, and he said, "Oh, but he'll that person. What will he tell me and all that?" I think my wife told him, Karan, if you're never going to see that person again in your life, how does it matter whatever he
Correct.
thinks or she thinks about you? Just go
True.
ahead and say and do whatever you want to do.
True.
That's it.
Yeah, there's this whole quote, meme, whatever doing the rounds, saying, अगर लोग क्या सोचेंगे ये भी आप सोचोगे तो फिर लोग क्या
लोग क्या
सोचेंगे?
सोचेंगे? Let's not do the thinking for other people.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, what are some of the bigger challenges you faced, and what has given you the courage to overcome? Because it's not as if you wrote books and they became bestsellers and it was all a smooth journey. I highly doubt that you become an author of multiple books.
No, 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 no. I'm not Chetan
And
Bhagat. I am being very honest with you. And I write for passion. I'm not writing for money because, frankly, there's no money to be made in writing books. I'm being honest with people. So I'll look. I'll give you a little bit of snapshot of my life. Not too long, a very small one. I have been immensely, and I've always expressed this gratitude that I've had a partner who's actually encouraged me to write. She's a very senior corporate person. She still is, and we and I was in television jobs and everything. I was in television channels, government television channels, and then she could see that I really wanted to write, but I was just not getting the time or the mind space. And she said, "What's stopping you?" And I said, the fact is, if I leave, it's a full time thing as far as I'm concerned. Writing it's not part time for me. She says, what will happen? You will lose. You're not working. Yeah, I said, I'll stop working. She says, then what? See, I'm doing extremely. We're doing extremely well. So why don't you go ahead and write? So Tanvi, I actually took that step when I was doing very well with my television career. I actually left it,
wow.
and Sonu supported me. So we did the role reversal in our house. Uh, Karan is very successful today in the US, and he is because partly I kind of parented him, and Sonu was at work.
Yeah.
She was a senior banker at that time, and I used to write my books. And we were in Bombay at that time. I used to audition for serials, which I've done. I did all the things which everybody you dream about and everything, but my wife gave me that freedom. She says, go ahead and do it. And then there's this question which I asked her, which is a very important one. I said, Sonu, when we go to parties, and there were a lot of those corporate parties, then what do you tell people? What does their husband do? Because I'd left my job. She says, you tell me what you want to tell them.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you this very interesting. There was another couple at that time, a Farang guy who was, I think he was married to the Indian head of Revlon or something. And he had this great line which he used to tell at parties. Oh, I play golf. He was not doing anything. I play golf. So she said, do you want to say something like that? I said, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
I mean, once in a while I do play golf, but that is a line where you're making it up.
Yeah.
So she says, then you decide what you want to say. And I actually said this to a lot of people. I said, I'm doing nothing. I'm looking after my son, but I'm also writing at the same time. And when the first time I said that in a party, it felt exhilarating. It felt
It was
like
real.
it felt real. It felt this is me. And over time, people accepted the fact that Juggi just wants to write. He's not particularly doing a job at the moment, but yeah, that's him. And
No, I think the thrill and exhilaration in your words of being
yeah,
honest and authentic, I think
Yeah.
it takes away a lot of the stress.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's who you are,
yeah. I
it's
think
who you
if
are.
you can be who you are,
Yeah,
it's a less stressful life. I
that's
think
true.
all of us have some masks that we wear, I
Yeah,
feel, at
sure,
any
sure,
time.
sure.
You know, nobody is.
Nobody's
It's very
perfect.
difficult to be 100% authentic all the time. There are
Correct.
some people in the world who achieved it, but most of us struggle. I
It's
try
like
to keep.
calculus, na? You try and reach to that point, you're never really at that
Yeah,
point. So you can keep on trying.
keep evolving. But I just feel that the gap between who you are and the mask that you're wearing or projecting to the world, I think if that gap is as small as it can be, uh, you're a person who's at peace.
Not only,
The larger the gap between your reality
I agree
and
with you.
your projection, it's very stressful.
See, let's say if you are in the business of writing, and I would assume that in the business of writing, you are exploring the human soul to some extent, which means first you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah,
And then you can be true to the world.
true.
I mean, if you want to hold a mirror to the world or to society or to some
हाँ, पहले
incident,
अपना
or
तो
पहले
अपना
अपना तो
अपना तो
देखो
देख
यार
लो.
कि तुम कितने सच्चाई तुम्हारे में कितनी है.
I agree, to be able to look in the mirror and be yourself, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when I won't be 100% authentic, maybe just not to be rude or not to. But the more I'm reading, I think there's a way to remain honest and not be rude. I'm trying to find that space, you know, where
All power to you.
trying. But yeah, I think before one can make a difference in the world, before one can
Yeah.
do anything of meaning in any
Yeah.
sphere of life,
Sure.
I think being aware of yourself is very important. It's
And it's
that
very
mirror thing that you
important,
said.
Tanvi, because see, you're right when you mentioned earlier that people tend to wear masks. But at
Right.
some point in their life, the mask slips
Hmm.
because the tiredness gets to you. You know, how much of a facade can you keep up?
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
कितने झूठ बोले, किसको क्या
कितने
कहानी
झूठ
करी,
है?
how do you keep track?
You have to keep track. It's like a, sorry for giving, it's not a sexist or a feminist thing, but supposing it's a beautiful woman, for instance. You keep up, I'm a very beautiful woman, beautiful woman. At some point, you have to let go and say, yeah, I'm getting these crow lines on my face and this is happening. So I might as well come to terms with it and acknowledge it. But
But that's true for everybody.
that's true for everyone.
Yeah.
For
Not just women. Yeah.
yeah, including the so-called good-looking male models and beauty. By the way, is again a big factor in all these things, where you just have to keep the facade up all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, the discerning viewer knows immediately that you are pretending.
Yeah, I totally agree. People can spot fakeness like that. We think we fooled them,
Yeah,
but we haven't, you
we
know.
haven't.
The more genuine you are, the better it is. So,
Absolutely.
okay, tell me one enduring philosophy of life or life lesson that you have learned over the years and you carry with yourself very strongly.
Follow your passion.
Yeah.
Simple. Just follow your passion.
What would you say to young kids who want to follow their passion, but their circumstances are tough? How then would one figure out things? Any advice that you have for them?
See, I do believe I certainly advocate as follow the passion, but I'm also a realist at the same time. And every human being, all of us, first we have to assess our economic situation. That's important. You know, you can't just live in la la land and then we keep talking of philosophy and other things. Take care of your economic situation. For instance, even I'm giving my example. I mean, I stepped off a job and I took to writing because writing is an uncertain kind of a thing. Because we both of us had assessed our economic situation, and that's the same advice which I give to people also. That even if you are a person, you don't have the means for the, let's say, to be a full-fledged writer, for instance, right now, or let's say you want to be a documentary filmmaker. I've seen that there are a lot of people who want to make documentaries, but they know that documentaries don't fetch too much money. Now, how do you go around doing that? How do you go around rearranging your life? Either you have a great partner, or you have a supporting parent, or you have some means. That's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that irrespective of what your day job is, you figure out a small pocket of your life
That's right.
to follow your passion till a point where you can only follow your passion.
You can follow your passion.
Just work up
Absolutely.
to that space.
Yeah. So the short point is that you have to combine realism with idealism. That's important, and then it all follows.
Yeah, do your, कुआं
Yeah.
खोद के पानी निकालने वाला काम, do your
हाँ,
bucket
कि ये भी
carrying
ना होता कि
activities.
बिना पानी के तुम तरस से ही मर जाओ, मतलब.
So you do your bucket carrying activities, but slowly build your pipeline. Yeah?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so before we end, it's been absolutely fun. But before we end, I've started doing recently, while it might seem almost, like it's a rapid fire. Yeah, for the lack of a better explanation.
Terrible at these kind of things.
So am I, and I didn't for a very long time. But
Okay.
my team has been insisting that I do this, so I'm going to give it a shot. So
I'll also give it a shot.
Okay, so when you're in deep writing mode, are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Tea, always.
Tea, always. What's the most challenging story you've covered as a journalist?
Babri Masjid.
One fictional character you relate to the most from your stories, from your own books.
My first book, The Terrorist. So there was this old man who's dying pitifully. So yeah, that's one character I certainly do relate to.
If you could have dinner with a fictional character from any book you've read or written, who would it be? That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Or maybe an author.
See, one author I used to really admire was John Le Carre.
Huh.
And I'll tell you why. Because this is one quote of his, besides being a very good writer. And he said, and he died at the age of 86, 87, 88 or something. And he said that every year of my life, I'm going to write one book. I'll keep writing till the end. And I believe in that.
Wow.
And so for me, getting out a book a year is important because that's what defines me. Writing defines my life. Writing defines me.
Amazing.
And if I can follow that path, wow, great.
Any words to aspiring writers?
Passion, 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 passion. Always trust your passion. Follow your passion. Believe in your passion.
Thank you so much. It's been an amazing chat. And follow your passion. That's really been, a summary of a lot of the things that we've discussed.
Thank you.
That's it on Unbox with Tanvi. We'll catch you on another episode soon.